What's going on, everybody? The RedSon lives once again, and I'm having a pretty good day. A little bit of I think this video might be a little shorter than like the rest. I'm not sure. I don't really schedule out how these videos turn out, so it might be the same as all the rest. It might be a little bit shorter. That's not intentional. Like, I have something to do tomorrow, and I always record these late at night, so I don't like mess with anybody else in the house. I know a lot of people like record in, like, when they first start out doing all this stuff, they record in the closet because they can do a lot of better stuff, but my closet is filled to the brim with a lot of other shit, so it's not like I can do a lot. And sadly today, no special gear, no representing somebody at the moment. It's just striped shirt. So the one thing that I wanted to talk about today is someone that I've had like a fascination with for the longest period of time that like nobody else talks about because I feel like history classes, they don't teach what they should teach. Not to say like the education system is bad. I mean, I don't fucking like it. it But there was someone that I always wanted to learn about that if I asked about them, they like remarked like, "Oh yeah, he was the president for a period of time," and then they like moved past on to like, here's what happened on the Mississippi River." Like, who gives a fuck about the river? Talk about the cool guy. And it was President Teddy Roosevelt. He was like, out of all the people who were president, he was fucking cool. Like, everybody talks shit about like, oh yeah, all the guys can do something cool. Some of them were dumb, some of them were lazy, but this guy was fucking awesome. He was like, he was like the most built president to ever exist, which is a weird concept because when you think of like a president, you think of like politicians always tightening their tie, making sure they're friends with this person and this person, not to get too pushed against this item, but also being friends with these guys who have strict beliefs and do not want to push past those. But he said, fuck that, I'm going to stick with what I like, and then if people disagree, I'll either ask them why and try to learn, or I'll fucking fight them. Like, Teddy Roosevelt, if people didn't agree with what he taught, with what he was saying in a bill or something like that, he would call out people in the middle of his cabinet and just be like, "Hi, you want to fight? Do you wish to fight? I will challenge you." Like, takes off the white gloves that he's like miming the fact that he's wearing white gloves because he's a man and he doesn't wear white gloves all the time. I challenge you to fisticuffs. That's like the most gentlemanly way of saying you about to get curb stomped, my boy. Like, that would be so fucking cool. Well, I wish people today had the balls that he had. Like, not even just like, I'm gonna call you out because I'm the president and I can do what I want. Like, I want them to be able to back it up. Not like a 75-year-old man who's like, I have political power. I want, like, the 50-year-old guy who's been like chopping his own wood to keep his house warm for the past 20 years, who then decided he wanted to be like president. So it's like, who's gonna go up against him? Daryl. Daryl, he was a lumberjack for 20 years and then decided he wanted to get into politics. What does he look like? He's like 6 feet. He's like 6'5", jacked, and 280 pounds. He's got like that big beer gut that's like not filled with anything other than beef jerky and fuel. Well, I want that guy in charge because no one would fuck with him. If they try to talk back, they're like, I could have you arrested. And it's like, we both getting arrested, boy. Like, Teddy Roosevelt, he was fucking built. And if he was in charge, he would wave around the fact that he was in charge. If he was getting if like, we don't agree with you and we're going to make sure that your thoughts don't come out of this. And he was like, I'll fight you. I'll fight you right here and now. Oh, and they're like, oh shit, I didn't expect you to say that. And they like had to back off a little bit. And like, when he was the president, they're like, this little girl walked up to him and said, "Hey, do you want to keep this badger as a president, as like the pet?" And then he looked down and was like, "Cool, fucking badger." And he picked it up and he has like a photo. Those photos took like 10, like 30 full seconds to like film, to get like all the way done scanning, and then the photo was taken. So it's just him, that little girl, and him holding a fucking badger. Just imagine a smile. Like imagine like how like the balls on a guy who just like, oh, this little girl randomly hands me an animal that's not fucking supposed to be like a trained animal. Here you go. Holds it with reckless abandon. And that is so fuck. That guy was like in charge. The second he picked it up, he's like, oh shit, that's the president. And the badger just sitting there like, I don't move. He won't kill me. Kill me. And he was like the only, he would call himself out on like, well, how would you start a fight with someone of this type? You must be a warmonger. And he would be like, yeah, I am. You kind of gotta be when you're in charge of an entire place. You gotta be willing to start fights. You don't need to, like, hold back. Imagine if somebody was in my position right now and they never wanted to start a war ever. If somebody attacked us and they would just be like, we're sorry, we'll change. No! I'm gonna fight those motherfuckers right back. And it's not gonna be a fair fight. I'm gonna win very quickly because I be jacked, yo. And it was it was such a like a messed up, and it was so fucking cool because like, what did you do before you were in, what did you do before you were a president? It's like, oh, were you a politician, a mayor? He's like, oh, I was in politics for a little bit. Oh, what were you? One of the fucking Rough Rider guys who like ran out into the middle of battles during war when they still had cars and planes that had guns on them, and he had a fucking horse and a sword. This guy's like an anime character. Just like, oh, he has a gun, and these guys are wearing full body armor, and he shows up on a horse and a sword like, y'all bitches, and just Grim Reaper running through like, and just like left and right. Like the last cavalrymen of the U.S. military, and he was the guy in the front like, yeah, they got planes, but no one expects a horse. How fucking awesome would that be? Just like imagine out of nowhere, there's like the trenches there's like the trenches in World War One where it's like, get down, and then they fire the fucking machine gun. One guy has like a trench warfare shotgun, and they're going through. There's poison gas everywhere, and out of nowhere, this big puff of black smoke that if you inhale it, you immediately get AIDS and die. Imagine that, but out of nowhere you just see a guy in like a cowboy costume with just a face mask, and the horse also has a mask, and he doesn't have a gun. He has a fucking saber. Like, wow, yeah, bitch. It was just going through, just like going through whoever was the bad guy. It's a guy coming at him with a flamethrower. He's like, bitch, I don't care about fire. I'm on a horse. And he just wins. Like, how do you tell that to your kids? Not everything that I've said actually happened to him. The Rough Rider thing with him on a horse fighting in a war, that was 100% true. And most of the other things that I've said are true, except for like the flamethrower thing, because the flamethrower and like the badass going through like mustard gas like it's nothing. That probably didn't happen, but if it did happen, I would not be shocked. It would be fucking cool. Yes. God damn it, this guy was cool. He was in the middle of giving a speech once, and then a guy was like, I don't believe this guy. So he pulled out a gun and shot him in the chest, and it took him like 2 hours. and he ran away. I don't know if they caught the guy or not. I never looked it up. But he like stood back up. He got like a little bit of attention, stood back up, and was just like, "All right, I'm gonna keep giving the speech." And then he like called out the guy who shot him. Like, how much? Like, what type of big dick energy do you have to have? Just be like, "I brought a gun to this fight," and he's just like, "You gonna need more bullets." And then he's just in charge. Did not give a fuck. In charge. Do you know how fucking sick that would be? Or like, just there's so much crazy shit that he did that was just like he was in charge. This motherfucker knew what he was doing. He just stood up, couldn't just stood up, still had the bullet hole in him, still had the bullet lodged in him. It was just like, goes up to the microphones like, "You can't stop the bull moose," and then took a few steps back and continued giving off everything else. Like, we're not gonna get another one of you, are we? You're fucking cool. And that's a good. Talking about Teddy Roosevelt, he was also a character on Epic Rap Battles of History, which is where I learned a few of those things from him, and then I did a lot more research. But on the topic of Epic Rap Battles of History, can we just appreciate these guys for a little bit? I know, like, they were at their most popular when they first started, and, like, was it 2012, 2014? I might be wrong about both of those, but, like, Nice Peter and Epic Lloyd, they are really good at what they do. Like, everybody's like, "Oh, they're just guys on the internet and they call themselves rappers." Like, they're pretty good at it. I'll give them that. They are really good at what they do, and what they do is really fucking cool. Like, imagine, could you go up and just be like, "I'm going to research everything about this character, and I'm going to get the costume to it, I'm going to do some editing to make it look cool, and then I'm going to give him a specific sound, and just focus everything about him into this little cube of just knowledge, facts, and rhymes. Mix it together, congratulations." Like, I forget I think their newest one right now is Thanos versus Robert Oppenheimer, which I get why they can't do, like, just only historical figures. Because historical figures they're limited, but they're always growing. And it's really fun. And they're gonna run out of like interesting guys because at some point you're not gonna have like all the mainstream awesome guys that already have a fandom, and because they worked through a lot of guys, so they started bringing on like these characters who are like technically historical because they've been around pop culture for so long. I mean, Thanos has been around for so fucking long, but he got super popular again because the Avengers happened. He's like, all right, here's a guy who destroys worlds, and here's the guy who has become the destroyer of worlds. Like the most. Like, what happened? He blew up these two places, and now his entire life is dedicated. And now he's like, I've done the right thing, but is the right thing a good thing? And he just has like this haunted look in his eyes the entire time. He's like, I'm talking about Oppenheimer, not Thanos. And it's so fucking cool. I don't know what. All I think the best one that they did was, my top three are Shaka Zulu versus Julius Caesar. Second one is Teddy Roosevelt versus, what's his name, Winston Churchill, and then the third one is Pennywise versus Joker. Because if you think about it, Pennywise and the Joker are kind of historical. I mean, the Joker has been around for 75 years, and he's kind of made what a lot of characters in fiction are now, because they had to, like, because if they were going to build off someone, he's a pretty good character to build off of. And Pennywise, he's been around since the 90s. I think. I don't know when Stephen King wrote it. But he's been around forever, and it makes sense that they would do it now since the resurgency of like all the Stephen King movies. Because they're pretty good, they just have shitty adaptations because they were all made in the 80s, and a lot of them had really terrible casting, or they had like, they burned out, they went too hard, too fast with all the properties, and it didn't end up working out. And all those different characters, all the different characters, they do so much research for it. The bars that they come out with are so amazing. Like, in one of the Joker's ones, in the Pennywise versus the Joker one, he says, I think, give me a sec. Um, I take smiles and I leave scars. Guards at Arkham will admit that the Joker just killed it. Like, I take smiles, he creates gas that leaves smiles on people, and I leave scars. Scars meaning cuts open. That's a Heath Ledger reference. And then guards at Arkham, referencing the Arkham Asylum. But also he said scars and guard right after each other. Skarsgård, Bill Skarsgård, the guy who played Pennywise in the new It movies, which I didn't catch the first time around, and it was so fucking like hidden in there. And the Joker just killed it, while the background to it is Nice Peter dressed as the Joker beating the shit out of something beneath him with a crowbar, so that's a reference to Jason Todd. There's so much, like, that's like 4 references in 2 bars. 4 references, 2 bars. That's really densely packed of just knowledge. There's so much to it. It's so fucking epic. Like, I remember seeing them as a kid, and I watched a lot of their stuff. But then, like, out of nowhere, when they came out with, like, with Elvis versus Michael Jackson, I stopped watching them for some reason. I think it's because I got, like, shitty internet, and I couldn't watch them because we were on, like, a limited amount, and YouTube always took up so much of it. But then I finally got like unlimited internet, and I didn't remember them for like the longest period of time until like a year ago when I found out like, hey, they made a ton more stuff, and I watched like everything they had 3 times over, and I'm like, they got really good when they left. I saw like last loaded 9 months ago to this date. I'm like, they're done. What the hell? They were really good, and then uh, out of nowhere, they came out with like Elon Musk versus the guy who owns Facebook, with Mark Zuckerberg, and I'm like, that's so fucking cool. But you're not starting strong. Like I didn't much care for that one. I feel like I should probably go back and watch it again because I wasn't. It had really slow delivery, and I wasn't really a fan of that because I like it when they either have like weight behind what they say, like Shaka Zulu versus Julius Caesar. It's like, when you got a shortcut, this will happen to you. Ooh, each word has like an impact of motion as they're going along with it. Yeah. But that one, it had like beats, and they were trying to keep along with the speech pattern of certain character of both the characters, and it didn't mesh well with the music that they came out with. But other than that, it was like out of that. It was so fucking cool. Well, because the characters could like, even then they still mimic the characters to a T, and it was ridiculous, and I just love what they do. I learned a shit ton of history from just random things because I know those, because I watch those. Do you think I know anything about Genghis Khan because I learned it in school? No! I learned it from Epic Rap Battles of History. I researched it to make sure it was right. 100% of it was true. I tried to look at. You want to know why I know so much about? You're gonna think of. I can't think of it. There's so many, and I draw a blank every single time. The Thor versus Zeus one. You think I know any of that mythology because I decided like, hey, I'm white. Scandinavian people are white, and so are Greek people. Let's go ahead and look up because we have something in common. No, I learned it because of them because it was like it was a Lego thing and it came out somewhere around the time that Lego movie did. And it was so fucking cool. There's so much to it and I still god damn it, it's good. But so much that I learned I feel like this is just a transition into something else, but when people like learn something, I feel like I've already talked about this before, but like when people learn something, a lot of the times they'll never check whether or not it's true, but they hold on to like their pride as a person and will say something along the lines of like, I know what I'm talking about. So you're wrong and you're bad because you disagree with me. And I see that a lot nowadays, mostly from the loud people who are not supposed to be as loud as they are because they're probably not the smartest. They're probably not the brightest bulb in the of the bunch. But there's so much to it. It's people will hang on to that one thing that they learned and they won't admit they're wrong even when they need to know that they're wrong. Just open your, and it's usually they're saying their opinion in front of you when they're not willing to learn. Like there's a quote that I feel like fits even though it's from a movie. It's from Men in Black. When Tommy Lee Jones' character Kay says to Will Smith character Jay says, why not? People can handle this. People are smart. And then he says, people are smart. A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky animals, and you know it. And that's what it is. It's this pack mentality where if they're in a group, they feel safer, so they'll start saying things that will make it to where people will agree with them, or they'll make it to where certain things will feel more safe to express that. Best way I can put it. There was a video I saw recently where it was a protest against assault rifles and why they need to be banned. And all the guy did was walk up to the people there who were holding signs and yelling the loudest. And he walked up to them with a microphone and a camera, so it kind of put them on the spot. He asked them politely, calmly, and did not make any judgment calls about anything that he said. He was very polite about it, and he said, Sir/Madam, do you know what an assault rifle is? And then they would be like, yeah, it's a rifle you use to fire bullets. Well, it's all right, but what is an assault rifle? Can you give me the specific definition of what an assault rifle is? And people there got defensive and angry because they couldn't just simply say no. We don't. I don't know, but I'm making a stance against them because because like it's my opinion. This has nothing to do with whether or not I give a shit about guns. It's more along the lines of like the mentality of a person as they put it there. They're in this group of people that believe one thing, and then when you call them out for not having knowledge about that one thing, they get defensive and angry and they hold on to that single thought that they've been holding on to that they feel like gives them identity. And if people question you on that, it feels like a personal attack on your own pride. And people are like wired to hold on to their pride. If they don't have their pride, they feel like there's something missing to it. I know I'm guilty of this all the time. Like I'll start saying something, but I found a way around it. You can admit that you're wrong by making a joke about you being wrong. Like if you say something Well, yeah, the guy who built the Panama Canal was Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt was the one who made the Panama Canal. Now, and I'll start going on like he is a really good president. Roosevelt, Franklin did a really good job, and somebody called me out on it and said that was actually Teddy Roosevelt that did that. And then I like, no, I think it was him. So he looked it up and showed me, and then instead of admitting I was wrong, I made it into a joke so that he knew that I knew I was wrong, but he had to make it like lighter spirit. I learned something and I got to make him laugh. It's a very simple concept. Just if people had more of a sense of humor about knowing that they're wrong, I swear so many things could be solved. Well, do you know what an assault rifle is? Yeah, it's a thing that shoots bullets, alright? But what is the specific definition of an assault rifle? You don't have to say that you're wrong. You just need to tell yourself in your head, like, am I wrong? Do I not know what it is? Let's make a joke about it. I know what an assault rifle is, but do you know what an assault rifle is? Wink, 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 nudge, nudge. Nice. And the guy will be like, you'll have that connection where it's like, okay, yeah, he realized he didn't know like the specifics of what the definition of an assault rifle meant. They'll think to each other like, wow, maybe I should look further into like what I'm actually doing here rather than like what's going on. Maybe I should do some more research because I have this new mindset of like telling myself I was wrong. It's people. I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it again because it's really important. People need to be willing to learn. Just because something is in your head doesn't mean it's right. There are beliefs that you can have, but if somebody brings up a fact, you should always consider it and then think about whether or not you shouldn't like. It should always be like, here's instead of being a wall that's just a wall, nothing, everything in here is what it needs to be, nothing outside of it should be what it is. It should be just a big gate. Every once in a while somebody will open the gate, it's a new opinion. Alright, new opinion wasn't really that good, so here you go. Just put the opinion back out there, you don't have to deal with it. Instead of being like, fuck you, I don't need to care about whatever is coming in. Nothing's getting into this wall. No, fuck you. You should have like a gate that opens up, lets in new things, and if it ends up being shitty, you open the gate back up, push it back out. If it ends up being good, make it a part of the gate. Put it inside, let it think around. Because there are things that I always said that I hated because I never actually like tried. Like the best way that I can put it is like, I hate that food. Have you tried it? No, but I smelled it and it smells like shit. Yeah, well, why haven't you tried it? Because it smells like shit and I don't want to eat it. Well, have you ever tasted it? No? Then how do you know if it tastes good? Because it smells like shit. That's not an accurate description. That's like if milk smells bad, but it's still good, that means you should drink it. It smells bad, but is it still good? I don't know. It smells bad. It smells bad. I don't need to know anything past that. I guess I'll just go back into my room and not eat any of my cereal. But like, did you taste it? Does it taste good? If it tastes bad, you can make your decision and then throw it away. If it tastes good, you're like, oh, I guess it just smells bad, but it's like almost there, so I should probably use a lot of it right now. It's very simple. Just get evidence to what you believe. Just get evidence to what's in here before you start like spouting it out. There's a comedian that I really love, Tom Segura. He did a joke about about his dad saying like he sees Tommy Lee Jones and his dad says, "Did you know he was gay?" And he looks over, he's like, "No." He's like, "He didn't. I don't care that he's gay, but like, my dad says it." And his dad was like, "Yep, he's gay." And then he tells everyone he's ever met ever until he got confirmation that he was not gay. And then he told his dad, and his dad was like, "Well, why did you go around telling people that?" He's like, "I can't remember." Remember, do you think we should stop? Now we should. Just be willing to learn, because not everything up here is correct. There's correctness everywhere out there. You just need to be willing to learn. There's a lot of stupid shit out there too, but you should always you shouldn't be like, well, here's the minimum amount of evidence that I need. Let's take it in. Like, look it up. This food gives you gas. Well, how do you know that? Because it gave him gas. Have you eaten it? No, but it gave him gas. But have you eaten it? Yeah. No. But it had bad effects against him. Why don't you try it? He's like, oh, wait, he's lactose intolerant. I'm not. Be willing to learn, because if you're not, then you're not functioning on any level above whatever you're doing. This isn't about which side is right. This is about be willing to learn. See the point of view of somebody else, because not everybody in the world is 100% right. Right. Some people can have proof that they're right, but that's only a proof of one thing, even though there's a whole bunch of other things wrong. Like the lactose intolerant thing. It gave him gas and it messed up his stomach, so that means it's gonna mess up mine. Do you have proof of that? No, but it messed him up, so it's gonna mess me up. Do you have proof of that? No? Well, then try it. Alright. It's never done anything to me, so. Oh. There's nothing wrong with me. He's lactose intolerant. I'm not. This actually tasted really good. End of story. Just be willing to learn. Because it's almost like writing fan fiction for a story and then never believing anything else is going to happen other than your fan fiction. It's so stupid. Speaking of fan fiction, something I wanted to talk about. Does anybody else create original characters or OCs for different like things, mediums, shows, games, anything like that? Does anybody else like come up with their own things because they just like they feel like it's an interesting world? Because I do that all the time. I don't like write fan fiction. I like keep it up here, and eventually like I'll draw what I want the character to look like, and I'll give them like a backstory, and then I'll just like leave them there. And every once in a while, I'll be in the bathroom and I won't have my phone, so I'll just like, all right, instead of doing this, I'm just gonna go back up here, and I expand on the character from there. Like, I've always had this idea of like don't you can't take this because it's on a video and it's going to be and it's going to be dated and you're not going to be able to say anything about it. But like for the SCP Foundation, there's no specific canon to it. There's no possible way that one thing can be true or one thing cannot. You can pick and choose whichever one you want. Because there's no officiality to it, or if that's a word. Um, so I decided, like, if I can make a character, then he's canon and not canon at the same time. So let's see where I can go with this. So I decided, like, which character should I make? What do I want to give him? What do I want to give the object or person? So I decided, let's make a character. Let's make him. What's something strange? His entire body is made out of different types of string and thread and rope. Like his skin is made of like is like semi thick but also slightly transparent amounts of silk. Beneath it, his bones are really highly compressed amounts of nylon rope. He has a bloodstream made of really thin thread, and the inner part of his blood is a single red yarn that goes around. And the whole thing that I made for this character is that his anomalous property is that he can feel all the same things as a normal person, except for pain above a certain level. Like, he can still, like, touch everything around him, and he can still, like, oh, this is a little bit colder than that, this is a little bit hotter than that. But once it gets above a certain pain level, he won't feel it altogether. Which you think is like, oh, so he can't feel pain, but so he can, like, still, like, have sex and still feel it, but like he won't feel pain. But the whole thing I made for the character is that if he ends up getting a slight cut, if he ends up getting something that would kill a normal person, his brain, he won't feel it. Like, if out of nowhere he got his neck snapped, he'll still be alive as he like turns his head back and like looks at the person. He's like, wait, what's going on? His body will still be functioning, but the inner part of him will be like, oh, I guess I died. And then his body will like detonate into random outburst, into like a huge outburst of string that's dependent on how like severely damaged his body was. And then he'll crawl out of the string and he'll be 100% healed, but it's almost like he just exploded a block of C4 in his chest. Yes. But instead of like an outward expansion of hydrogen, it would just be like a normal, it would just be like a really big amount of string. Just poof. And it would, and I made it to where it's like, oh, so like the character, every time he gets damaged in like a death related way, he would just explode into this. It's like, okay, what are the problems with that? Well, maybe he's going down the street one day, and why is he in containment? Why is that such a big thing? Because he tries to go through his normal life, but if he feels a sudden pain, like out of nowhere, a psycho came up behind him and stabbed him in the back, he would immediately die, but he would never his body would say like, oh, this is lethal damage, but he would never feel it. So out of nowhere, he would just detonate on the street and end up like blasting people back with all the force that all the string exploding from him would create. Hey. Or like if out of nowhere, a crazy guy with a gun just started like shooting people from like a rooftop with a sniper, and they accidentally like cut his throat with a bullet, like bang. He would never feel it, but he would detonate and ended up taking out more people than the guy with the gun could ever. And it's like that's a legitimate problem. Should we be able to take that away and make it to where he should detonate all the time? Well, no. The SCP world isn't about like superheroes who can do whatever they want. It's more about like a lot of the things that are created in it are these things that have problems and real consequences. It's not about like, I'm Superman and I can do whatever I want. It's more like this baseball bat can hit anything that it hits will fly off like the home run bat in Super Smash Bros. You just one tap, bam, poof. Well, what happens if it hits a person? Bam, poof. They explode into blood and guts and gore. Like, that's a legitimate problem. Oh, well, you can just run around doing that. Most people won't just like grab the bat and just start swinging away at bad guys. Some people will accidentally like drop the bat on their friend, and their friend will explode into blood and guts, and they'll go out of their mind. Or they'll just, there's so many of these things. They're like, what if there was a watch out there that every time you pressed it, a timer would show up, and something would happen as soon as the timer gave out. Like, bam! 2 seconds. 2 seconds is up. The desk cracks in half. He's like, oh, actually the warranty says that it was only good for a few years, and we passed that months and months ago. Oh, so apparently it just gave out on itself. And then they started like pressing it again, and one of the guys died from a heart attack because they pressed it. It was like 3 minutes. 3 minutes is up. One of the guys has a heart attack. Oh, apparently his pacemaker died out that time. So they were like, maybe we shouldn't use this thing. And they left it alone. Because there's actual consequences to when people use it. There's not like, oh, it's a purely good thing for all of humanity. No, there's actual consequences to it. There's reasons why you shouldn't do it. Which is why I made the string guy not be able to feel certain pains. He's not going to be like, oh no, I've been stabbed. I need to get somewhere before I quote unquote die, so that I can detonate safely. No, he's just going to be walking down the street, and out of nowhere, someone's going to be like, give me your money. He's like, what? And then they shoot him in the head, And then he's going to be like, oh, this isn't going to be good. And he detonates right there. Like, he doesn't even have time to think. He just detonates immediately. Everybody goes flying because of how much they're pressed. He ends up killing a few people, and he ends up blasting out sides of walls because he's so close, and the explosive force of all that string exploding from him is super destructive. There are real consequences to everything that's being said about him. And it's such a. I worked on the concept for so long, and I gotta say, I'm super happy with it because of. There's so much to it. I was like, well, what happens if he's completely erased from reality? Well, he can't be. Because if there's a reality warper, they try to like erase him, they would erase like the left part of his body, and then they would get all the way to like halfway. His body would detonate into such an extravagant amount because of how much damage has been caused to him that he immediately heals, and there's no way they can get through all the string to like actually disintegrate him. But then they get to like Scarlet King levels of like, I'm going to erase the universe and you in it. So they erase it, but as they're erasing him, they don't like erase him permanently. They get all the way down to the very tiny amount of string in the center of him, and he bursts out in this enormous nuclear explosion of just string, enough to level miles and miles of certain areas. And then he just keeps detonating because they keep like, why won't you go away? And he keeps like living forever because they keep erasing him, but he keeps exploding and exploding, even though it's not going to do anything, until eventually they give up because it's been so long and he won't stop detonating and regenerating. There's just. I put a lot of time into the character, and I feel like if anybody else out there sees a show that they love and they absolutely adore, make OCs for them. Because OCs can be canon if you try hard enough. David Tennant used to write Doctor Who fan fiction before he became the Doctor. Think about that. How many of you think that he actually submitted a few of those as his script? Everybody who writes for the SCP Foundation, there's a good. Every one of them started out as a fan fiction thing, and then they just created it. It's all canon now, and it's not canon. You can do what you want. Everything is canon, and everything is not canon. And there's a reality to it that everybody needs to know. Like, what if I made my own character for Frankenstein? Like he was the second experiment of Dr. Frankenstein. Fine. It's in the public domain. You can do it if you want. It's completely up to you. Have fun. Be creative. If you're not creative, then what are you? Then like, where are you gonna go with everything? Some of you are like, "Oh, I'm not that creative." Think about it. Sit down and think about a concept. Now think about other concepts. Think about other things. Try to mash them together. Create what you feel like you're going to create. Because everybody's played with Legos. Everybody. And creativity always starts with the first block. Just work from there. Now I said this was going to be a little bit of a shorter video. Ended up turning into a 43-minute video, which is a little kind of short. Not really, but thanks again for this one-man podcast that I do. Thanks again, everybody. I've been the RedSon, setting today. Bye, guys.